One the rain had been falling since dawn, the kind that soaked through clothes and made the city feel heavier than usual. Most people hurried past the small auto repair shop on the corner, barely noticing it. The sign was old, the paint faded, and one letter flickered whenever the wind picked up. Inside, the smell of oil and metal filled the air, mixed with the quiet hum of effort and patience. Daniel wiped his hands on a worn cloth and leaned under the hood of a car that had clearly seen better days. His movements were calm, practiced, almost gentle. This shop wasn't just where he worked. It was where he survived. Every bolt tightened, every engine fixed meant another day of keeping his daughter's life steady. From the small office at the back, a soft cough echoed. Daniel looked up immediately. "Just a minute, sweetheart," he called out, trying to keep his voice light. Lily sat in a wheelchair near the doorway, wrapped in a blanket even though it wasn't cold inside. Her legs rested still, but her eyes were alive, curious, watching her father as if he were the strongest person in the world. "I'm okay," she said softly, though Daniel could hear the tiredness in her voice. He finished tightening the last screw and walked over, kneeling in front of her. "You sure? We can go home early today." She shook her head. "You always say that." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Because it's always true." Before either of them could say more, the sound of a powerful engine cut through the rain. Not the usual rattling or coughing engines Daniel was used to. This one purred, deep and confident, like it knew it didn't belong here. A sleek black luxury SUV pulled up in front of the shop, water beating off its polished surface. It stopped with perfect precision, the engine shutting off smoothly. For a moment the street seemed to pause. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out, tall and composed, wearing a long dark coat that probably cost more than Daniel earned in a year. Her heels didn't splash in the puddles. She stepped carefully, as if the world adjusted itself around her. She removed her sunglasses, revealing sharp eyes that missed nothing. This was Eleanor Blackwood. Most people didn't recognize her on the street, but in boardrooms and headlines, her name carried weight. Billionaire, investor, owner of half the city's skyline, a woman who controlled companies the way others controlled their breath. She glanced at the shop sign, clearly unimpressed, then at her phone. No signal. Her jaw tightened just slightly. Daniel stepped forward, instinctively wiping his hands again. "Can I help you, ma'am?" She looked at him, really looked, as if measuring whether he was worth her time. "My car stopped responding," she said. "No warning lights, no noise, just stopped." Daniel nodded. "I can take a look." She hesitated. Places like this weren't part of her world, but the rain, the silence of her phone, and the empty street gave her no better options. "Fine," she said, "but I don't have all day." Daniel opened the hood, listening more than looking. He closed his eyes briefly, tuning out everything except the engine. Eleanor watched him, arms crossed, impatience hidden behind control. Lily rolled a little closer, curious. "Daddy, that car looks like it's from a movie," she whispered. Eleanor heard her voice and turned, surprised. Her gaze softened for half a second when she saw the girl in the wheelchair, then hardened again, as if she'd revealed something she didn't mean to. Daniel smiled at Lily. "Movies break down too." Eleanor almost smiled. Almost. Minutes passed. Rain tapped against metal. The city breathed around them. Daniel straightened up. "It's not the engine. It's your control module. A small short. Probably happened during the storm last night." Eleanor frowned. "Can you fix it?" "Yes." "How long?" "An hour. Maybe less." She checked her watch. "Do it." As Daniel worked, Eleanor stood under the shop's small awning, watching everything without appearing to. She noticed how carefully he handled the tools, how he double-checked each step. She noticed how he paused every few minutes to glance at Lily, making sure she was comfortable. Lily noticed Eleanor watching. "Do you have kids?" Lily asked suddenly. Daniel froze. Eleanor looked down at her, surprised by the directness. "No," she said after a pause. "Oh," Lily replied. "My dad says kids make you tired but happy." Daniel cleared his throat. "Lily, it's fine," Eleanor said quickly. She looked away, but the words lingered. An hour later, the engine came back to life, smooth and obedient. Daniel closed the hood. "You're good to go." Eleanor pulled out her phone, signal restored, and without asking, transferred a large amount of money to his account. Daniel glanced at the number and shook his head. "That's too much." She looked at him sharply. "For my time it's nothing. For mine," he said calmly, "it's more than fair. I charge for the work, not the car." No one had spoken to her like that in years. Eleanor studied him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "Very well." She turned to leave, then stopped. "What's her name?" she asked, nodding toward Lily. "Lily," Daniel said. Eleanor hesitated. "She's strong." Lily smiled. "So are you." Eleanor didn't respond. She got into her car and drove away, the rain swallowing her presence. Daniel watched until the street was empty again. He didn't know it yet, but something had shifted. A line had been crossed. Two worlds had brushed against each other. And neither would remain the same. The morning sun barely peeks through the dusty windows of the small garage, casting long shadows on the cluttered floor. The hum of an old engine fills the room as the father wipes his greasy hands on a worn cloth. The bell above the door jingles, startling him for a moment. He looks up, squinting against the sudden light. There she is, a young billionaire woman, dressed impeccably, stepping out of a sleek black car that seems out of place in this neighborhood. Her eyes, hidden behind dark sunglasses, scan the workshop. She carries an air of authority and wealth, but there's a subtle hint of desperation in her movements. Her luxury car, a symbol of her world, is parked awkwardly near the entrance. Clearly broken down, she hesitates, then takes a deep breath. I was told you might help with this, she says, her voice carrying both confidence and vulnerability. The father, used to working with his hands rather than words, nods slowly. I can try. Step aside, I'll take a look. As he inspects the engine, she watches silently, her posture rigid yet curious. She's used to people fawning over her wealth, but here no one bows or flatters. The father doesn't even flinch at her designer shoes or expensive coat. Hours pass. The sound of tools clinking and engines revving fills the garage. They exchange occasional words, small talk that slowly begins to break the invisible wall between their worlds. She finds herself laughing at a casual joke he makes about a stubborn carburetor. It's a light sound, almost foreign to her but refreshing. He notices and smirks. Not used to laughing at garages, huh? She shakes her head, removing her sunglasses. I don't know why, but I feel like I can be normal here. Not someone defined by money. He glances at her briefly, then back at the engine. You don't need a title to matter. Just help me fix this first. As the sun dips lower, they finally finish working on the car. It roars to life, smooth and perfect. She lets out a sigh of relief, her hands gripping the leather seat. Thank you. I can't believe you did this without asking for anything. The father shrugs, hiding a small smile. It's what I do. I fix things. She studies him for a moment, her mind racing. In a world where money solves everything, here is someone who solved a problem with nothing but skill, patience, and honesty. Something in her shifts, a quiet admiration forming. The first hint of connection lingers, subtle, yet powerful. Neither of them fully understands it yet, but the moment marks the beginning of a bond that neither wealth nor status can dictate. As she drives away, she hesitates, then turns to give him a small wave. He watches her leave, feeling an unfamiliar tug in his chest, unaware that this brief encounter has already planted seeds of change in both their lives. Days pass. The billionaire woman finds herself returning to the garage more often than she expected. Each visit is under the guise of another car problem, yet the real reason is unspoken, a growing curiosity about the man who lives so differently from her world. The father notices her subtle change too. She no longer just drops off the car. She stays to watch him work, occasionally asking questions about tools, engines, or how something works. One rainy afternoon, she arrives soaked, her umbrella forgotten. He looks up surprised. You could have stayed home. Why come here in this weather? She shrugs, shivering. I wanted to see if you were okay. And maybe talk. They sit in the garage, the rain drumming on the metal roof. Silence hangs between them, but it's comfortable. No one here is pretending, no titles, no money, just two people sharing the same space. She finally speaks. You have a life so different from mine, yet somehow you seem free. Not weighed down by expectations. He smiles faintly, not looking at her. Freedom isn't having money. It's knowing what matters and not letting the world tell you otherwise. Something in her stirs. She's always had everything, yet has always felt trapped. Here she feels a spark of something she cannot define, admiration, respect, and maybe something deeper. Over the next few weeks, their connection deepens. They share small moments, laughter over spilled oil, debates over which tool works better, silent understanding when words fail. Then comes the first real challenge. She receives a sudden call from her family, an urgent business matter that requires her attention. She has to leave the city for days, maybe weeks. The father watches her pack, his chest tightening. I hope it works out, he says, trying to mask the unease in his voice. She pauses, holding his gaze. I don't know what I'll do without this, without you. For a brief moment, the words hang in the air, raw and honest. Neither one of them expected to feel this way, yet here they are, emotions growing stronger than they anticipated. She leaves, but the void she leaves behind is palpable. The father finds himself thinking about her constantly, wondering if she will return, and if the connection they've built will survive the gap between their worlds. Meanwhile, she struggles with her own thoughts. Her wealth, her status, they mean nothing compared to the sincerity she experienced in the garage. For the first time, she questions her life, her choices, and the people she has trusted. Both worlds are on pause, and the story is just beginning. The emotional tension grows, the bond deepens, and the inevitable crossroads approaches, testing whether a billionaire woman and a hard-working single father can bridge the worlds they come from. Weeks later, she returns. The city feels different now, colder, and her luxurious car stands like a silent reminder of the gap between her world and his. She walks into the garage, hesitant, unsure if she'll be welcome. The father looks up, wiping his hands on a rag. For a moment, there's silence, 1,000 unspoken words hanging between them. Then he nods, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "You're back." She nods, barely able to meet his eyes. I couldn't stop thinking about this place and you." The tension breaks as she sets the car keys down. They begin to work together again, side by side, their unspoken connection slowly translating into small gestures. Shared glances, quiet laughter, and moments of lingering presence. But the world outside is not so forgiving. Her family notices the changes in her behavior, the way she talks about the garage, the father, the simplicity that seems to fascinate her. One evening, a sharp phone call interrupts their routine. She listens, her expression tightening. They're not happy, she admits. They say I'm wasting my life with someone beneath my status. They're threatening to cut me off. The father's hands freeze on the tool he's holding. He swallows, trying to maintain composure. "Your family, they can't decide your life for you." She looks at him, frustration and fear battling in her eyes. "It's not that simple. Everything I've known, everything I've built, they control it all. If I stay, I lose everything they promised me. But if I go, I lose you." He steps closer, placing a hand on her shoulder, careful, steady, grounding. "Then maybe it's time to decide what you truly want. Not for them, not for anyone, but for you." Tears form, threatening to spill, but she holds them back. For the first time, she feels the weight of choice, her wealth, her comfort, versus something real, human, and unpredictable. Meanwhile, the father faces his own challenge. Gossip spreads through the neighborhood about the billionaire woman visiting the small garage, creating whispers and judgment. He is torn between his growing feelings and the reality of their worlds. She could leave any moment. Late one night, after everyone has gone home, they sit together in the quiet garage. The air is thick with tension, unspoken fear, and budding desire. "I don't know if I can fight them," she whispers, voice trembling. "But I do know I can't walk away from this, from you." He reaches for her hand, their fingers intertwining, a silent promise of trust, courage, and connection. "Then we fight together. Whatever comes, we face it together." Outside, the city hums indifferently, but inside the garage a storm brews, not of rain, but of choices, emotions, and the collision of two worlds that were never meant to meet, yet cannot stay apart. As the night deepens, they share stories of their lives, dreams, and fears. Slowly, the emotional distance narrows, replaced by intimacy, understanding, and an unspoken commitment. But the next day, the billionaire woman receives a stern ultimatum from her family: leave the father or lose everything forever. The clock is ticking, and the story edges toward a turning point that will test love, loyalty, and courage like never before. The day of reckoning arrives. The billionaire woman stands before her family in their sprawling mansion, the tension palpable. Their words are sharp, filled with authority and expectation. "You must end this or you lose everything," they insist, voices echoing off marble walls. She listens, her heart pounding. Every luxury she's known, every promise of comfort, threatens to pull her back. But her thoughts drift to the small garage, the man who taught her that life isn't measured by wealth but by honesty, courage, and heart. She finally speaks, steady and clear. "I have made my choice. I cannot live in a world that values money over truth, convenience over love, or titles over humanity. I choose him. I choose life as I've never known it, real and honest." Shock ripples through her family. Threats, anger, and disbelief fill the room, but she stands firm, unwavering. She leaves the mansion with nothing but a small bag, a symbolic gesture of her break from the world she was born into. Back at the garage, the father is working late. The dim light casts shadows over his rugged face, a reflection of years of struggle and solitude. The sound of the door creaking draws his attention. She walks in, soaked from rain but glowing with determination. She smiles, a mixture of relief and excitement in her eyes. "I'm here," she says softly. He sets down his tools, stunned for a moment. Then, almost instinctively, he walks toward her. "You came back," she nods, tears streaming but a smile breaking through. "I promised I wouldn't let fear decide for me. I promised myself and I promised you." They embrace, the world outside fading. For the first time it's just the two of them, no wealth, no status, just honesty, love and courage. Over the next few weeks, they navigate their new life together. Challenges arise, whispers from society, skepticism from friends, moments of doubt, but they face each one as a team, growing stronger with every trial. The billionaire woman learns the value of hard work, humility, and true connection. The father discovers that love can transcend status, that the heart can be richer than the bank account. Months later, a quiet evening in the garage, they sit side by side. The rain taps gently on the roof. She leans her head on his shoulder. "I never knew life could feel like this," she murmurs. He smiles, wrapping his arm around her. "Neither did I until you came." In a world obsessed with money, power, and appearances, they found something rarer: authenticity, partnership, and unconditional love. The garage, once a place of work and solitude, becomes a sanctuary for their shared dreams. The story closes with a lingering shot of the two of them laughing, tinkering with a small engine, their bond unshakable. Outside, the city continues in its chaos, but inside, love has rewritten their lives. The final message resonates clearly. True connection cannot be bought, status cannot dictate love, and courage to choose your heart can change everything. Fade out as the camera lingers on their intertwined hands, symbolizing a journey that began with a simple act of trust and grew into a lifetime of shared dreams, struggles, and triumphs.